Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So both Remedy Entertainment games came out years apart, but they're constantly getting compared. And honestly, I get it, because they're both supernatural, they're both weird, they're both made by the same studio, right? But here's the thing, they're actually trying to do completely different things. Today we're breaking down Control versus Alan Wake 2 to see which one actually deserves your time. Let's go. Alright, so first up, let's talk about where these games take you, because the atmosphere is literally everything here. Control drops you into the oldest house. And look, the oldest house isn't just some normal government building. It's basically a paranormal headquarters that defies reality. The whole place shifts and changes around you. One moment you're in this brutalist concrete corridor, and the next you walk through a door and suddenly it's Art Deco luxury. The architecture itself is a character. Remedy designed it like a Metroidvania, like Metroid, where you unlock new abilities and can suddenly explore areas you couldn't before. It feels like a maze, but in a good way because there's always something new to find. The vibe is very bureaucratic meets supernatural chaos. Alan Wake 2, on the other hand, puts you in Bright Falls and the Dark Place. Bright Falls is this actual town in Washington state. The developers spent time making it feel real. There's rain, there's nature, there are camps and abandoned buildings scattered around. It's grounded, But then Alan's trapped in the Dark Place, which is basically his nightmare manifested. Picture a twisted version of 1950s New York, all rainy streets, sketchy people whispering things, dark alleyways. The Dark Place operates on dream logic, so it doesn't follow normal rules. Everything's unstable and keeps looping back on itself. The difference? Control wants you to feel like you're uncovering a mystery by exploring this impossible building. Alan Wake 2 wants you to feel genuinely unsettled, like something seriously wrong with reality itself. Now, combat is where these two games completely separate themselves. Control's combat is honestly a power fantasy. You're Jesse Faden and you've got this magical gun called the service weapon that changes forms. 1 second it's a pistol, next it's a shotgun, then it's basically an assault rifle. It even turns into a sniper rifle and a rocket launcher. And while you're shooting, you're also using telekinesis to throw objects at enemies. I mean, we're talking desks, chairs, entire sections of the environment. You can lift things that are way heavier than you, throw them across the room, create shields from debris. The combat happens in these open spaces where enemies attack from all angles, and you're constantly juggling your gun and your powers. It feels incredible. You go from this regular girl just walking into a building to basically becoming a superhero by the end of the game. Alan Wake 2 is the complete opposite. Both Saga and Alan move slowly. The game deliberately makes you feel heavy and tired. The combat is slower, more deliberate. You're fighting just a few enemies at a time, sometimes just one. Your flashlight is your best friend because you need to shine it on enemies to expose them to damage. It's survival horror vibes, think Resident Evil. You're not mowing down hordes of enemies, you're being careful, rationing your ammo, trying not to get surrounded. The game is designed to make you feel vulnerable, not powerful. And honestly, some players felt like the combat was a bit clunky because of it, but that's kind of the point. It's supposed to feel desperate.
Story-wise, Control and Alan Wake 2 tell their stories in completely different ways. Control's story is about Jesse Faden arriving at the Federal Bureau of Control looking for her brother Dylan, who was kidnapped when they were kids. She walks into this building and there's this entity called the Hiss attacking everything. It's basically a reality-bending force that possesses people and corrupts them. And somehow, Jesse is chosen to become the new director of this whole place. The story unfolds through exploration and conversations. You piece things together yourself. It's mysterious, sometimes confusing, but in a cool way because there are actual mysteries being left unsolved. Control builds a world more than it tells a straightforward story. Alan Wake 2 splits the narrative between two characters, Saga, an FBI agent investigating some creepy murders in Bright Falls, and Alan Wake, who's been trapped in the Dark Place for 13 years. The game jumps between both of their perspectives. Saga's discovering what's happening in the real world, while Alan's literally trying to escape a nightmare by rewriting it. Here's the wild part. Alan writes stories, and those stories literally start becoming real. So the game becomes this meta exploration of storytelling, control, and reality. It's nuanced, and it's exploring psychological horror and what happens when someone with reality warping powers loses their grip on sanity. The ending is complex, but it actually gives you answers. There's a proper conclusion. Control leaves you with more questions than answers. Alan Wake 2 wraps things up while still maintaining the mystery.
Let's talk about characters for a second, because this matters. Jessie Faden is the heart of Control. You watch her transform from this girl just walking into a building to becoming the director of an entire paranormal agency. She gets powers, she gets confidence, and by the end, she's basically a superhero. You get attached to her growth. She's got this companion, Polaris, a mysterious voice that guides her throughout the game. The other characters in Control, Emily Pope, Simon Arish, Casper Darling, they're good, but they feel more like they're there to explain the world to you rather than being fully fleshed out characters themselves. Alan Wake 2 has Saga Anderson, and she's fantastic. She's an FBI agent with actual investigative skills and psychic abilities that don't make sense until you realize her family line has always had these powers. The game puts real effort into her character arc. Alan Wake is also a character in his own story, and watching him slowly lose his mind trying to escape the dark place is genuinely unsettling. The supporting cast, like Alex Casey and Ilmo and Jaco Coscella, they all have actual depth. The writing is more character-focused, which is part of why Alan Wake 2 feels like more of a complete narrative experience. Here's something that actually matters a lot: how fast the game gets going. Control throws you into the action almost immediately. You show up, you get shot at, you find the service weapon, and boom, you're fighting the hiss. The game balances action and story really well from the start. There's no long opening that bores you. You get gradually stronger, learn new abilities, and the game keeps escalating. It respects your time. Alan Wake 2 is a slow burn. The first 2 to 4 hours are basically walking through story beats and investigation. You're exploring Bright Falls, talking to people, reading documents, trying to understand what's happening. If you're someone who wants to jump straight into gameplay, Alan Wake 2 will test your patience. But if you stick with it, the payoff is worth it, because once it gets going, the atmosphere and story pull you in completely. It's like a TV show episode versus a movie trailer, you know? Alright, so here's the real question. Which one should you actually play? Control if you want a power fantasy where you get to feel like a superhero while exploring an impossible, fascinating world. If you like games like Dishonored or Prey, where you get cool abilities and the world feels rewarding to explore, Control is your game. It's also shorter, so if you're time conscious, it respects that. Alan Wake 2 if you want to be actually invested in a story with real characters and you don't mind moving slow to get there. If you like horror games, if you appreciate narrative depth, if you want an experience that sits with you after you finish it, then Alan Wake 2 is the pick. It's longer, it's more atmospheric, and the story actually goes somewhere meaningful. Honestly, both games are good. They're just different. And if you play them in order, Control first, then Alan Wake 2, you'll appreciate Alan Wake 2 even more because there are actual connections between them that hit different when you know Control's story.